Morning everyone. What morning Kingfisher. Morning to all of you out there in the world. This is a beautiful morning in Djuma. We've had a lovely misty sunrise, and with this mist has come a really beautiful effect to the grasses. We've actually just been sitting with a herd of impala in these grasses. I'm going to try and get the same effect with some zebra now that are just to the west of us. My name is Mark, and Jason is with me on camera today again for round 2, and hopefully between the well, welcome back. So, as I said earlier when we were opening up, welcome back to Djuma. Now we've got some zebra to try and get a beautiful morning effect if we can. The sunrise. Just get the light right. The morning grasses and the sun coming through their manes. No good. Where do you want to explore it, please? There we go. Not quite the effect because the sun's already risen too high. A few minutes ago it was still low enough to have a really... Oh, it is quite nice. I mean, the dewdrops on the grasses are very, very fine because of the mist that came in this morning. I think we'll just get a better angle on these equids. Silhouetted now. Welcome to Africa, everyone. Welcome to part of the Greater Kruger National Park. This is Djuma Game Reserve. Morning chorus of birds and a very peaceful herd of zebra. There's another foal that's been lying down at the back. Didn't see that one. There's a foal. This is the stallion standing closest to us. Quite a handsome chap. Well, I think we can wander on. A lovely way to start the drive. It's a nice peaceful scene. And maybe later on we can catch up with this herd if we can find them. Bye-bye, zebra. See you later. So, I guess while we're driving we can talk about the big elephant in the room. About yesterday, everybody. I think to some extent it's made out to seem a lot worse than it really was, but it was quite an incident, right? No mistake, and a very, very unusual incident, might I add. You know, I've spent the better part of the last 30 years with elephants in many different countries, in many different circumstances. Elephants that have been affected by poaching, that are very nervous and very aggressive towards vehicles. I've been in places where elephants are very accustomed to vehicles and very, very relaxed around vehicles, and everything in between. And well, every day almost when I'm not working, I'm at home, I'm with elephants, and I have so many experiences with elephants rushing the vehicle or coming towards the vehicle. Often it's mostly strolling towards the vehicle, but sometimes because of different circumstances I've had elephants a little bit upset with vehicles, and so they behave in that manner. They come rushing towards you and then stop and kick sand at you and try and move you off that way. But never before, in hundreds of encounters, thousands of encounters with elephants, have I ever experienced what we experienced yesterday. See if we can get around this marula tree again. Try this way. Remember, we had elephants and family feeding on this tree. Quite a magic day, that. So by no means should anyone infer anything from that incident yesterday in terms of how dangerous these things can be and how unpredictable or that elephants are likely to do that at a slight moment. If we have to consider the number of vehicles that are out in not only the national parks but also just the private reserves around, not only here around the western edge of Kruger, but also going up through Botswana, Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, you name it, in countries all over the eastern and southern Africa, with all the wildlife areas. There are probably thousands of vehicles out on any one particular day, and I'd say that they're not likely to experience this on a regular basis. I think maybe every few months or so you might find out of all of the vehicles in all of the game reserves, maybe there's been an incident. So I think it was isolated. I can't imagine what got into her. I can't imagine, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I can only begin to imagine what might have triggered that. Look, the little parasol mushrooms. Can you see them? Coming out of the old root of that marula. Something decomposing. Gorgeous little parasol mushrooms. About an inch, their caps are about an inch in diameter. Today's going to be a nice day for fungi because of the rain that we had yesterday. A lot at home, in fact, because of one, you see here in the Sabi Sand there are many different entrances and there's a number of different roads, so it kind of, in a way, lessens the amount of impact on the animals in terms of accessing the reserve for vehicles and people who are not really directly involved in the reserve. Now, I'm not putting blame anywhere, I'm just trying, by way of explanation, I want to explain what happens in some of these reserves. There are delivery vehicles, there are business vehicles and all sorts of vehicles that drive in and out of the main road. Now back home there is only one road that goes into the Timbavati, and I'm about 40 kilometers down that road, so I do spend a lot of time on that road, and I do encounter a lot of elephants on that road, and I do see how delivery vehicles, trucks, it's not that they misbehave with elephants. They don't know how to behave with elephants. People from the city are naturally scared of them, so they rev their engines and they do a lot of things to try and move elephant off the road, and sometimes they do get upset with them. And I've often received the brunt of that anger with elephants displaying to me, but never before, even though they can be upset with the vehicle. Never before, even though they can be upset with the vehicles. They never have done anything to the vehicles. I can only maybe imagine what might have triggered this, and that maybe somewhere along the line something happened to her yesterday, or it could have been a year ago for that matter, but something triggered that response, something triggered that emotion in her, that she wasn't satisfied. Even though we weren't approaching him, I was moving around the bush, and actually the rest of the herd had moved off. There was the one female that had taken the calves, and she was moving away completely from us. And this big old matriarch decided to come back at us. I had a look far to the east onto Quarantine, across the drainage line. I thought I was looking at the zebra in that one little gap. As far as it is, no, maybe not. But that's where we were when we started up looking into those grasses in Quarantine. Really beautiful view from up here on Zoe's Road. And that's the morning mist just lifting from the sun, burning it off. Truly magical morning, start of a new day. White-tailed mongoose trap. Zebra trap. We're going to go back to Scott, say hello to Scott and Brian and I guess the thumb this morning, and we'll see what we can find in the interim. Hopefully we can come back to us and we've got something for you. So, see you in a while. Bye. 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 Bye bye.
No, he's not. He's just going to assume. I'm not going to ask, oh, well, what am I going to swap for? Welcome back, and myself and Brian have yet to find anything of great excitement, but it's really beautiful out here. It's crisp and clean and fresh after all the rain we've had yesterday, so thoroughly enjoying being out, and I'm just hoping to find some interesting little scenarios for us to get involved in. Myself and Brian did stop and watch a little tree squirrel for a while that had poked its head out of its hole in a marula tree, and it was just enjoying the sunshine. So that was enjoyable, but other than that, it's been fairly uneventful. Sadly, after rain, some of the roads become actually compacted and very difficult to see if tracks or animals have moved down the roads, which is vital information for aiding us in trying to track them down. Having said that though, this stretch of road now is looking okay, so if lion or leopard did pass here, and those are the two main animals that we track, if they did pass down here, I think we would be able to know that, which is good. I'm hoping to find a snake. And I know Mark found one yesterday, which is wonderful. But I really would love to see another snake, and it is a good time after heavy rains. Now the sun's out and it's going to start to warm up, so being cold-blooded animals that they are, they will hopefully be seeking out the sunshine and moving from whatever hideaway they may have been in that would have become damp and no longer snake friendly after the rain. Well, we did see a squirrel just poking its head out of a hole earlier, and now we've got one that's looks like it's just woken up. And it'll stay here for a minute or two because there are a few young squirrels about at the moment, and they are very playful, so with a bit of luck we'll get some entertainment from them. I'm not sure though how best we are going to approach this, because the angles are going to be difficult with the sun. But let's shift around this tree a little bit. That's not gonna work. Sadly, the angle of the sun there was not going to allow us to continue watching those squirrels, so rather let's carry on and see if we can't find some more. Okay. So this is our southern boundary, and we're going to continue west. The sun directly behind us. We're going to continue west into Arathusa. And as soon as we do cross into that property, I'll get an update on the radio. They work off a slightly different channel to us here. And that is common in the Sabi Sands because there are lots of different lodges that all traverse one another's properties and share properties. There's different radio frequencies to prevent too much traffic being on one channel. So depending on where you are, you'll go onto a specific channel, and hopefully it won't be too chaotic. Just asked for an update on Shadow and her cub, and sadly we haven't heard anything further than when Mark was last with her a few days ago, and I assume that they are okay. It's not uncommon for hyena to be at any kill that a leopard's made. And therefore, like I said, it's not uncommon. It's not the first time that cub would have spent a long time up a tree with hyena below. Its whole life of 5 months, it would have constantly been interacting with hyena. To varying degrees, obviously, but we assume that they're okay, and who knows, maybe today we'll be able to get a glimpse of them and then be for sure exactly how they're doing. She is a notoriously elusive leopard, hence her name. They don't see her very much, even though her territory is slap bang in the middle of Arathusa. Well, I stand to be corrected there, I don't know enough about her, but she is around on that property a lot. I guess she may overlap to the property west of them, which was close to where we did see her with the kill. Okay. Shortly crossing in, our next road to the left will lead us into Arathusa. And just going to make sure no animals decided to use this road just as we are. It doesn't look like it. Well, there's a very pretty bird on the road. and it is feeding towards us, so I don't want to go too close in case it flies. In case it flies off, which it did. But did you manage to get a little bit of that, Brian? Not really, no. It was a little African hoopoe, very pretty birds. VM, I'm going to be getting an update on the strategy for whatever that may be. If any of you are close to zebra on the break, would you mind just giving me an update, please?
Welcome back. Low-lying trees, low-hanging branches. So, back to our elephant yesterday, and VM is telling me there are a few questions that have come in. I'd like to address anything that you'd like to ask about that, and just reassure everyone that we are both fine. Jason and myself are fine. Jason? Did it affect your sleep last night?
I dreamt about it, but not too much.
Was it a nightmare type of dream?
Well, I wanted to get away, which I did successfully, I think.
Okay. Morning Marco. Marco's in New Jersey, saying that if I'm around elephants a lot and they would get used to me, or I have to have this question again. Trying to formulate it in my brain. I guess Marco, what Marco is asking is if elephants that Morning Donna, I suppose a very appropriate question. Donna in Ohio is asking if this elephant, any action is going to be taken against the elephant if she's posing a threat. The only thing we've got to identify her really is that little bit of footage. I don't recall seeing her before. I might have. I think I might have recognized her because there were one or two things about her that were quite distinct. And there were a lot of viewers out there that were not too happy with me calling her an old lady or a granny. Unfortunately, that's what she is. She's an old matriarch, and she isn't a youngster. So she's been around since the old culling days in Kruger. But that's the very key to the whole thing, Donna, is that she's one of the Kruger elephants. She might not even be seen again for months and months. She might also have worked out her aggression, and now she's not going to likely do that again. I'm hoping she doesn't do anything. As far as I'm aware, she's not going, no action is going to be taken. I wouldn't like anything to happen to her, but it wasn't her fault. She was certainly not in the wrong, but then but neither was I. It was just one of those unfortunate incidents where we were in the same place and she didn't want me there all of a sudden. And one can't blame her for behaving the way she did. You said if we could see into the minds of an elephant, if we could see into her psyche, we might have a better understanding of why she did it, and then we would know either how to prevent it or whether she's likely to do it again. The fact is that we don't know what made her what it was in her life that riled her so much that she did what she did. So no, I don't think so, Donna. I think hopefully, and I'll know more today. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of answers, or rather a lot of questions to answer to today. Having the incident happened yesterday afternoon, and then of course we went back to Manuleti, which I must tell you about is another wonderful thing, because we had a wonderful experience last night trying to get back to Manuleti with Lion, with those two Salati boys. But that's for later. I'd like to discuss the elephant and just reassure everybody that this is not a common occurrence, and I don't think it'll happen again. Some kudu. So this is kudu. Another one here. Morning, Justin. Justin's in Denver, Colorado. Nice to hear from you, Justin. And an interesting, or rather a very nice question from Justin, asking if I think the elephant is okay, if she was maybe injured through that incident. I don't think so, Justin. Personally, I don't think so. Maybe where the tusk went into the vehicle, I don't know how far the tusks went in, but looking at the size of the holes, I think they probably did get it. They weren't very big tusks. I mean, they weren't very long, the tusks. They were quite short. And when I think of where it went in, it didn't penetrate very far, so I don't think it even reached where her upper lip was. But maybe that's the only place that she could have really got injured, is if she'd forced her tusk into the side of the car and the metal reached the end of her tusk where her upper lip is. That might have changed things. But I don't know, I really don't think she would have been hurt at all. You know, I've seen elephants headbutting trees, giant marula trees, big palm trees. I've seen elephants going at each other as well, and well, the car gave quite a lot, and it's an almost like aluminium type of body, which is why it dented so easily, or tore so easily, because it's actually a type of aluminium, or aluminum as it's called in other parts. It's a type of aluminium called Burma bright that is used on Land Rovers, and it's very durable, but it is also very thin and very easily dented and everything. Anyway, so I don't think she was injured. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe an abscess or there was something else that might have been something that's making her uncomfortable, that she takes it out on other things, other inanimate objects. One thing I wanted to mention as well that's very important with this whole incident is that she was hitting the vehicle between Jason and myself. She was angry with the vehicle. She wasn't angry with people as such. When I was turning around like this and I was facing her and her head was, I mean, I could have hit her on the head. I was hitting the side of the car and I was trying to shut her down from my seat. I could have probably smacked her on the forehead, but I didn't want to really physically touch her. But as her head was coming, she could have quite easily lifted her head. She could have aimed for me, or she could have, using her trunk, could have aimed for Jason. But she made a point of only hitting the vehicle. And I don't know, how many times was it? 3 or 4?
3 or 4.
I can't remember. That's sort of this instance like that.
So it's one big knock, a couple of pushes, another big knock and a couple of pushes.
Yeah. That was all happening so fast, but it was also happening in slow motion. It's one of those strange incidents where time is warped completely. But I just want to emphasize that she was hitting the vehicle right behind me, and even though I was shouting at her and she was looking at me, she had no intention of hurting either one of us. You know how elephants are particular, or how meticulous, or how dexterous they are with their trunks and their tusks. I mean, they can wedge a tiny little bark away from a tree with a tusk. When they look down their face, down their tusks, they know exactly where the point of each tusk is. They know how to pick one tiny little leaf or a little berry from the ground. So I think what I'm trying to say is that she knew where she was aiming. She knew what she was doing, and she also I think made a point of not trying to hurt us. And that makes me believe that she was more upset with the vehicle than she was with us as humans on the vehicle. Still, another thing that I'd like to mention is, okay, so we'll move on from the issue and put it to bed now, I suppose. See what's down here on Pindam. There's that big male, that my timber male that came. So we had one of the Matimbas walking down here yesterday. Scott, what's your lock? Okay, I'm not copying Scott. Okay, copy it. Well, one of the Matimbas came walking down this way yesterday, so it'd be nice at least to the round, but of course overnight lions travel such far distances. Buffalo down here. Now, big male lion in an area where there's been a number of buffalo could have consequences, but it's not easy for a male lion to bring down a buffalo on his own. Not impossible, depending on the size of the buffalo, of course. I've seen 2 lionesses bring down buffalo, big bull buffalo. Good morning to Ryan in Utah. Morning, Ryan. Do lions get under cover when it rains, or they do not really care? Well, depends on the lion, Ryan. Sometimes lions don't really bother and they just carry on doing. Sometimes they enjoy the rain. Sometimes they will curl up huddled under a tree, under a bush, trying to get some shelter from it. I think it largely depends on temperatures, depends on, I suppose, a lot of factors. Interesting. Is that an eagle or a vulture in the distance? Morning, boys. Yep, chiller boys. It looks like a raptor, like it could be a juvenile. Let's go a little bit further. Sorry, boys. We will be able to see it. Looks like a juvenile harrier hawk. A couple of birds complaining about its presence. There should be a nice picture of it. Sitting on a dead tree. You can get a nice view from here. Maybe not a harrier hawk. Maybe a Wahlberg's eagle with a yellow gape. Hard to see from this distance. You can see a little bit of yellow there on the face. Here, Wahlbergs are hunters of birds. A lot of ripples on this side of the dam. I'm wondering what's moving about. There are a few terrapins swimming around, but over the years, or a few years ago, during the summer months when this little pan used to fill up, or the little dam here, twin dams, when it would fill up, we often would get a crocodile that would come up from the south. Small crocodile that would occasionally alternate between this pan, or twin dams, and a place called Baboon Pan on the other side of the road. And that's why I was thinking, oh, that's what it is. Look, they're white-faced ducks. White-faced whistling ducks. 3 of them. That's who's paddling about, making ripples. Hello, children. That's the noise they make. They do whistle. Also known as tree ducks, nesting in trees. A little bit dark though. And if they look at us, you'll see those pretty white faces. Look at that. Sometimes in large flocks. So from Twin Dams, we're going to head over to Arathusa. Scott's got something exciting to show you, and I'm going to be crossing the riverbed, and see you later.
Welcome back, folks. And I'm just listening to an update that's coming through on the radio regarding Shadow and her cub. And there is a ranger that has found tracks of Shadow and her cub. So that is on the western boundary. Okay, so at least they are out and about, and they are quite far west of where we are now, the tracks, that is. They haven't found animals, just the footprints of the mother and the cub, so they are both alive still, which is great. And we have stumbled upon 2 lioness, which is wonderful. They just repositioned themselves as we came live, and then
You're in the way.
yeah, put their head the wrong direction. But they are lying down in the road here, and we actually found their tracks, and I'd stopped to investigate them, and at that same moment I heard a vehicle mention that they've just found these animals. So we got lucky, we didn't have to track them, and thankfully, because I don't know this property very well, and they've moved a long way from where the initial tracks that we found were. Now, in a situation like this with these 2 sleeping lioness, all we can hope for is something to come along, and that will excite them, and hopefully they'll try and catch whatever it is that's coming past. But unless that happens, sadly, I'm not sure how much of a show they are going to provide us with. But let's try and get you a slightly different angle. But this is, it's not going to work. I'm going to let Brian see what he can try and salvage out of this very tricky situation. Their bellies look fairly full. I wonder if they managed to potentially snack on an impala or something like that last night. I don't know much about these 2 lioness. I believe they are from the Styx pride, according to one of the guides who found them. And we'll spend 1 or 2 minutes here. Hopefully they'll put their heads up, but I'm not feeling confident about that. And then we'll head off and look for something else that may be a little bit more entertaining than this. And what we'll do is basically keep this information of their whereabouts and plan accordingly for this afternoon, when we may have more chance of them being active. So potentially we'll return to these animals this afternoon, but at the moment I've got far too much energy to be sitting here with sleeping lions, so we will... That's coming in. There's only so much sleeping lions one can look at. Morning. Good, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Very good. Morning folks, how are you doing?
Are you gonna go to the $5?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna travel on. Yeah, I know where it is. Oh,
They said so.
Okay. But I might go there. Second. As we don't very very good at disappearing, and I guess more similar looking to the Nyala than the kudu, but now's not the time to explain that because we can't really see. What you may have noticed is that she lacked the vertical white stripes that an Nyala has, and just has a few little white spots. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Linda, and Linda was interested to know whether there's some virtual starlings having a bit of a dispute with red-billed ox, because there's a lot of fighting over nest cavities at this time of the year, and oh, spider web there. So Linda from Texas, morning Linda and welcome on board. Linda was asking whether the white-crowned shrikes, which we saw 4 little babies in a little white-crowned shrike's nest a couple of weeks back, and she's asking if they're still okay, and sadly they're not. We went back there after a big storm, not the one last night, there was another one about a week before, and we went back there, and evidently they'd all just been, I think, blown out of the nest or shaken out of the nest. It was situated so far at the terminal branches of that tree that I'm sure there would have been very little chance of those chicks being able to stay in there in a big heavy storm. So sadly none of those made it. It was actually very sad to go back there and look, but that is the way it goes out here. The young animals of all species do have the odds heavily stacked against them. But thanks for asking, Linda. We did go back and check, and obviously you've just missed that drive sadly, but they are all no longer. Okay folks, well, while myself and Brian continue to move towards the position that we're hoping to get to in order to view Mvula. Let's cut back to Mark and see what he's been up to over the last few minutes. So we'll catch up with you later, and until then, back to Mark.
Different eddies. Welcome back, everybody. And well, we're with a herd of ellies. We're trying to keep our distance. I don't want to put Jason too close. Jason needs to have a bit of time to digest being with elephant again. And well, we need to also, we're just looking to see if it might have been the same group. It's not. There's a different matriarch here. Look at that one scratching its foot on that fallen branch. Looks like they're all picking up marulas underneath this marula tree. Feeling around in the grasses for fruits that have fallen. Might be nice to see if the matriarch does headbutt the tree. More the bulls that do that than females. Quite cute. Those two youngsters are pushing up against each other. A little bit thick, and well, it is just over our boundary, so we can only hope that they're going to come out onto the road or onto this fire break. But that will be when they finish those marulas. Look at that tiny little one there. There's a squirrel. Watch him react to the squirrel. I think the squirrel wants to get to its tree and the ellies are in the way. It'd be nice to see that little one. If that little one comes out onto the road, that must be mom of the little one there that's moving to the left. That's a tiny ellie. Really tiny little one. Only a few months old maybe. You get the squirrel again behind the Ellie. Little squirrel in the road. See, she's calm. Just coming on to Western Gari. She's a lovely girl. Hello, baby. And the little boy. The one on the left. Actually, they're both little boys by the looks of things. That must be mom and her 2 children. And then there's the other female with maybe her 2 children. And then a young cow, that must be maybe the old girl's first, maybe her first child. Maybe she's got 3 different ages. And this other young cow that's got 2 calves. She's coming out now to say hello. I was wondering if the squirrel would be chased. The elephant just sort of turn its head and chase the squirrel a little bit. So, hello girls, come bring your baby, that little one. She's up there, she's Zilla. Gonna walk behind us with her baby. Okay. Pity the baby went behind us. It would be nice. We could have seen that better. See, you've got the sun coming through its hair because there's a little furry little baby. I'm going to have to try and reverse and get see him a bit better. Get back onto the road. Hey squirrel, that's what you wanted. He was looking for a marula nut. Finally found one. Sadly it's gone into a tree. Interesting to watch squirrels trying to eat marula nuts, because if they don't know how to get into them, it can be quite comical. Are we going to see that little one again? I don't think so. They're going into pretty thick bush. In fact, the drainage line is just below the old hyena den up on the corner there, the far southeastern corner of Djuma, and we might be able to pick them up again up on Leadwood Road. There was a set of leopard tracks there, which is what brought me here in the first place, and thought I'd just have a quick peek on Gari May, and turned out to be a herd of ellies. But there is a leopard moving around, and as soon as they're moving into some pretty thick bush, I think we're going to go and see if we can find some more tracks from that cat. Gorgeous little ellie that. Hi children. at WildEarthTV or hashtag Safari Live if you want to email, you can tweet it. Hashtag Safari Live. Morning, Ryan. Morning, squirrel. Ryan in Utah. Is there any animal that is like a bear in South Africa or Namibia? Well, not in the whole of Africa. Ryan, I suppose the equivalent of the bear is the lion. Ryan. The bear family is unique to Asia, Europe, and in North America. I'm trying to think if there are any fossil records of any bear-type creatures in terms of extinct species. Certainly not. But no, I don't think so. New world animals as opposed to what we call the old world. I mean, Africa is seen as old world. The Americas is new world. Old world, the Americas, Asia, Europe seen as new world, except for India, which was part of Africa, so there's still old world things in India. Interesting. Mongoose tracks, looks like white-tailed mongooses here. One of the largest of the mongoose species. The tracks are about an inch or more, a bit more than an inch. Very long claws. Can only be mongoose family. And from a lovely clear blue sky, got the cloud moving everything into it. Not too bad. Keeps the heat down a little bit. So I wonder where. Try down Lakewood again. Just carry on. See the cat line, see if we can pick up back here and see the cat line. Interesting. Joe Ellen, morning to you, Joe Ellen. Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Midnight train to Georgia. Because I've got Georgia on my mind.
There's a batelier up there.
There is a batelier up there. And it's an adult, beautiful red-backed adult. Batelier, you can get redback or whiteback morphs, colour morphs. Do elephant, or rather do lion or leopard hunt elephants? Question from Georgia, from Mary Ellen. Look at that beautiful face, red beak. If we could see its legs, it would be very red too. Leopard, no, not that I've known leopard to hunt baby elephant. Yeah, I mean, in most of Africa, elephant society and maternal care is so strong that it would be very difficult for lion to get a baby elephant. But in some places, having said that, in some places where elephant populations have perhaps burgeoned, populations are sort of quite big, there is a little bit of a breakdown in maternal care or social structures, and that can lead to all sorts of things. But there are certain areas in Africa where lion have learned to hunt young elephant, and through that have learned to take down even larger, if not even adult females. Now there are 3 particular places that I know of where lion are hunting elephant, and since they've learned how to do it, they are repeatedly doing so. One of them is up in Chobe in Botswana, where it's been happening now for at least 2 decades. I can remember hearing about the first incident and thinking at the time I heard it that it was a one-off, but quite clearly the way the elephants are so compressed against the Chobe River up in Chobe, the lion have learnt to disturb the herd at night to be able to get to the calves, and they have been taking them down regularly since the 90s. But another place where there's a pride of lion that has started taking down elephant is up in Ruaha National Park up in Tanzania. There's a pride of lion up there that is fairly large that has started taking down elephant. And there's evidently a pride up in Kruger, up in the sort of northeastern part of Kruger, that are quite a large pride that have also started taking down elephant. Leopard, I think, would be a little difficult. I'm not sure if there are any recorded incidents of leopard taking down elephant. I think there are a lot of elephant activity at the moment. A lot of herd footprints here, all sizes, all heading south. We've got that one little family group that's just moved north. A lot of branches in the road actually. Seems to have been picking the senna as well as the silver cluster leaf. There's a track here of a baby elephant that are smaller than my hand. That must be a newborn Ellie. Quite a big herd by the looks of things that went south. They must have been moving here during the night. I don't believe anyone's driven here this morning, but you can clearly see the tracks of a vehicle that drove here after the rain yesterday, and all this elephant dung and elephant tracks are on top of yesterday's vehicle. I'm guessing either very early this morning or sometime during the night there was quite a large herd that strolled down the road, this road. Another big leopard tracks. Scott, where are you? Okay, copy, thanks. Seems like Scott's got something more exciting stuff from Scott. So we're having a really great morning this morning. So I'm going to hand you over to Scott. I'm going to follow up on these leopard tracks. Might be the same ones I saw earlier. These are not very fresh, not as fresh as the ones on Ledwood Road, but I'm going to follow up on these. And just wait for Scott to finish on the game drive radio. And we'll go over to Scott shortly as soon as he's ready. So nice to see this cat. got his spot now, I guess.
Yep. And he was on the move initially when he was found, moving in a southerly direction. Welcome, folks, and believe it or not, there is a leopard in the center of your shot, so look closely and you may see him panting, or a few spots. Sadly my monitor's not working, so I can't see. I'm just going to have to scoot off the road slightly, vehicle to come past, so I'm going to use this opportunity to get us a little bit closer. Without my signaling thing to them, Brian, just I think they've got it here. Okay, well, thankfully he's picked his head up again, and as I was saying before we repositioned, he was moving in a southerly direction, and this is the furthest south that I have ever seen him. So really nice to know that his territory does expand this far, and who knows what he could be doing here, whether he is here on business planning to push another territorial male called Tingana, who I think is dominant in this area. So they could be battling it out between the two of them. And who knows, maybe he's just taking a break and he may get active again. Apparently there was some form of interaction with hyena. So I was just thinking about trying to make space. Another vehicle's just arrived and it is quite difficult to get views, but I think they are allowed on this property that they're driving through, whereas we are not. So it's okay for us just to put our two tires onto the side and get out the main road. But sadly we can't get any closer, but we've still got a fairly decent view of him, considering the views people may have of leopard on safari. It can often just be a fleeting glimpse. And yes, the Sabi Sands is often the place that people do see leopard for the first time, and these can often be fairly well seasoned safari goers that have been on several safaris but yet to see the leopard until they've come here. There was a Madora-in-law. There was one Madora-in-law just on the southern edge of the, on this southern edge of the airstrip, if you're interested. Okay, well, you may have heard the vehicle come and go in a short space of time, so he obviously has less confidence in me that Mvula may get up and move again. But I have mentioned it before, and the guides out here do feel pressured to show their guests as much as they possibly can while they are here, and even though their intentions may be good, it may end up not necessarily providing the best experience. It's a difficult one, but a problem that I'm thoroughly enjoying not having to deal with, as this safari experience is more ongoing, and because there's no definite kind of 3-day or short period of time, we can go out and enjoy whatever Mother Nature puts out for us, as opposed to racing around and trying to force sightings. So, and you would have noticed, I'm sure, a lot of the more regular viewers, how we may be in one sighting for a long period of time and 6 or 7 vehicles may come and go while we are still in that one spot, and it is by spending that time that you do increase your chances of seeing something special. And we could take this for example. I mean, another male leopard could pop up, an antelope could walk past, hyena could come, lion could come, anything could happen here. And the only way we're going to know is by sitting here. Even though, yes, he is sleeping, it might be worth spending a little bit of time here. And what the other game viewers don't have, that myself and Mark do, is one another that we can bounce between. So that also helps us greatly. And in times like this, when the leopard is fast asleep in the grass, I can't help but wonder what Mark is up to. Mark, how are you doing there? Mvula is fast asleep. I don't have a great visual. Okay, well, I don't think Mark could copy that message. VM, would you mind finding out what's going on, please? Okay, well, is his picture the better than my picture at the moment?
You can see them in there. You must see the flowers. We got this beautiful coral red flower in the winter, in July. Welcome back. I've been following tracks of a leopard all the way down from Cheetah Cut Line, big male leopard, and thinking, because now at first I thought they were fairly fresh, but then the tracks had some rain on them. So it was probably sometime last night or so. And they were big leopard coming in from Portrait, and I'm wondering if it wasn't maybe Mvula who came onto Gowrie and has gone all the way west to where Scott has got him now. I don't know what this is. Interesting berry. Have to look it up another day. It's not the same leopard tracks that we saw on Ledwood Road, and we might have to. We're going to do a loop around here in the riverbed, and then I'm going to do another loop from Tim Dams going back to the riverbed towards Bateleur Road, and then we'll head east again and go and look for that, follow up on those other leopard tracks. Such a beautiful, hello children. Nyala and her little boy. Big mama, and looks like she's pregnant too, so she's pretty heavy with her next child. Very big, carrying quite low, so it looks like it's due fairly soon, no doubt. Little boy's just got his horns coming, but you can also see quite distinctly the dorsal crest that he has that the female doesn't have, even though he's looking like a female at the moment. It's quite interesting in that number of species of animals that males differ vastly from the females. And when the males are juvenile, they look more like the females, and that's so that the males don't get aggressive with them until they're old enough to actually be able to defend themselves. Find it in fish and birds and all sorts of different species where only as an adult male, even the reptiles, lizards, snakes, it's amazing how they climb this almost vertical bank with ease. Of course, in some species, the presence of a dominant male can suppress the young males from coming into full color, and it's only really a dominant territorial male, especially in some of the things like reptiles and some of the lizards and fish. And the young males all look like females. Of course, different with the mammals. He will, as he's growing, he's going to slowly get darker, and his horns will get longer and start changing colour, a lot different to the way it works with fish and reptiles, but interesting concept to begin with. Oh, except the swallowtail butterfly just flew by a little too fast. Was a tiny little red spider, almost like the baby golden eagle. One little boy amongst all these big ones has actually got his head curled down and he's fast asleep, having probably just left the herd. He must have been a late lamb last year. He's not as close to the yearling. Let's see, there is his head now. You can see those tiny little horns, but the yearlings of last year's, or rather previous summer, 2012, 2013 summer, no, that's long ago, 2013, 2014, last summer, those males, the yearlings, have a much slightly longer horns than this, so he was probably born very late in the summer. I noticed today actually there was a lamb that's very, very new, which is a very late lamb, and perhaps feeling a little bit down, having had to leave the family herd. Now he's hanging out with the bachelors, and he's probably the lowest ranking of the lot because he's the smallest. But interesting that he's in the middle and all the bigger boys on the outside. Whether that's intentional, I don't know. They're looking. able to take time off actually selecting their food. Now they can just sit down, chew the cud, and actually rest the legs. I guess they're feeling quite safe in terms of predators, in that it is a very peaceful morning. There are no alarm calls. Oh, the starling has just dislodged that Wahlberg's eagle that was sitting in that dead tree that we saw earlier. Starting to cook now. Morning, Marco. Again, do we have any fig trees? I know they're in season at the moment, fruiting. We do actually have some fig trees. There's one low-felt fig in our sort of daytime staff quarters, place called the research camp at Djuma, where we spend time between drives. Not many of the large figs. I mean, there's normally on these riverbeds you would get the likes of sycamore figs, but mostly on much larger riverbeds than here on the Mulwati River. Where this Mulwati River flows into bigger riverbeds, I think you'll start getting the sycamore figs. Beautiful big yellow barked fig trees. They can rival jackalberries in size. But what's interesting about some of the figs that we get here that are not real trees yet, they are stranglers, and I'll keep a lookout because I've seen one or two new ones that I hadn't seen before in my previous years of being here at Djuma. In fact, there's one just around the corner, if I remember correctly, that I didn't notice a couple of years ago, and I only noticed it, I think it was a couple of days ago with them on camera. So maybe if we just head up this road called the Elephant Park, we might see it, because if I remember correctly, it was just up here. An interesting growth pattern and a just interesting lifestyle of some of the figs. Hello, piglets. Yes, well, when in doubt, eat, I guess. What are you doing? I guess she's just eating. The strangler figs, there are a number of fig species that act as stranglers or can become stranglers, and what happens is, of course, the seed, the fruit's eaten by birds, seeds are deposited when birds are perched, and the seed develops and starts growing in the fork of a tree where maybe there's a little bit of debris, maybe there's enough for it to initiate growth. Probably Mrs. Pig. They're all alone. No children. No husband. No teenagers. She's been digging. Her snout is full of mud. Probably using the soft, wet ground to gain access to some of the tubers and roots that will normally be hard to get at when it's still wet, or rather when it's still dry. You'll notice with warthogs, the upper tusks of the females have a much tighter curve to them. Shame she doesn't like me talking. Much tighter curve. The male's curve is a lot more open. Now, see, there's the strangler signal somewhere around here. Just avoid these little big wet landmines. There it is. knew it was here somewhere. We haven't seen this one before. I don't recall seeing it 4 years ago. And as you can see, let me get a little bit closer, how it has started growing, and then there's the root. You follow the root up to the tree. I'm sure if we got closer to the tree we'd find that its aerial root, by the looks of things, is already maybe touching the ground. Not a very big crown, a crown the size of a bit bigger than a dinner plate. A little bit of that tambuti that's stretching over to the left of the fig, but you can see the big broad leaves of the fig. And it'll eventually strangle this tree. It'll eventually stretch a network of roots around the tree. And of course, once they hit the ground, they're getting more nutrients than they're able to, just being aerial roots. They're not getting any nutrients from the tree at the moment, other than the moisture that's running down the bark of the tree. Looks like a black monkey thorn, Acacia burkii, the Senegalensis burkii. And as those roots thicken, once they reach the ground, they become so tight against. Interesting thing happening to our right with buffalo rubbing on a tree. Looks like we're going to push that tree over. Let's see if we can get that. We're having a look. I'll still talk about the fig. Let's have a look at what this buffalo is doing. And at the same time, the host tree is trying to grow, but when the roots of the fig become so tightly bound, the host tree can't expand, and it actually strangles the host tree. The tree actually strangles itself from sitting to it. What's interesting is how this buffalo, if he lets us, unfortunately he's behind this spike thorn, but he's rubbing his boss, he's getting behind his ear, he's having a good scratch. Hello, Mr. B. Oh. You can carry on now. You see all the bark on his horn, helping with parasites that get into the horns. No, he's given up. Maybe it had his fill of rubbing. Perhaps the tannins help with the parasites that develop on the horns, and later, once they die, actually bore into the horn, and that's a larva of a moth that actually. Now we're on this road, we might as well carry on with it. I wanted to go back into the riverbed, and I was going to go back east. But, you know, when you go to turn, you've got to turn. I'm going to look for other strangler figs. There are some bigger ones. There's one up on Nyala Road, which is quite a big one. There's that famous one on the junction of Central and Nyala Road that we were watching consistently over the years, a few years ago, and there's interesting developments with that one, in that the elephants have stripped barked the milkthorn itself and have actually eaten the roots. I remember we used to look at the one main root and watch how it was developing, coming down the trunk of that tree, and well, elephants have eaten it, so it's now sending out more roots, trying to reach the ground. But the figs that we have here in Africa, a lot of the figs, remember, they're not cultivated figs, these are all wild figs. And with these wild figs come a symbiotic relationship with a very particular species of wasp. In fact, quite a unique relationship that is an incredible story to be told. How the fig wasp helps to pollinate the flower of the fig, and how the flower of the fig supports the colony of fig wasps. Now, I don't know if you know this, but fig, the flower is an internal flower. The flower of the fig is not exposed to the air, and it requires a very specific species of insect, in this case the wasp, to be able to get into the fig. And there's a little hole that only the fig wasp can get into. There are other parasitic wasps that are able to parasitize it. There was a wonderful movie made by some people up in East Africa that are Mark and was it Delia? I'm not speaking of the Owens couple, this is another couple that I actually met them when I was in southeastern Kenya while they were filming this particular film. It's called Queen of Trees. and probably has some of the most impressive and fantastic camera work I've ever seen, being able to film inside the fruit of a fig that is smaller than a plum. Anyways, this relationship doesn't allow, or it renders the figs unpalatable to us humans because of this relationship with the insects. Of course the birds and the primates and other animals don't mind the figs and the wasps, but they aren't very palatable to us humans. Unfortunately, we don't get any rocky outcrops here, things, inselbergs that we call poppies. Another type of fig, a couple of different figs that grow on rocks and in the crevices of rocks. Look, there's a hyena coming straight for us. Hold on to your hats. Listening to squirrels shouting at us. Catching a whiff. Hello, Missy. What do you think? Wow. A little bit late going to bed. Maybe we can follow it and don't go up the drainage line, and I'm not going to follow you. Maybe picking up scent of Djuma's kill that was behind us, maybe 100 yards behind us a couple of days ago. Sniffing around. No. Picking up the scent of something in the drainage line. Came out of the drainage line to see if it could pick up the scent again. Seems to be going back down. Let's see, it's getting a little bit closer. This child. Little letter. Some of you might remember a very interesting incident that happened in this very spot. Hopefully we're not going to lose signal. Mishu and Duna and Karula with an impala kill up this very same drainage line where the hyena is standing, and the trees, unfortunately this jackalberry has been pushed over, but remember when the hyena chased Mishu and Duna, they were still only about a year old, up a slope of the tree that was pushed over in the background. And Mishu, I think, nearly getting the end of its tail taken off. Hello, Missy. Got a tick on your neck. I can take it off if you want. Hello. Aiming straight for the tree where Djuma had the kill the other day. Let's see if we can. Maybe, maybe not. Going back down, elephant skull. Okay, you're on your tail. Take us to your leader. not that unusual to have a hyena patrolling this time of day. Unfortunately, we haven't yet found where they've moved the den to, so we're not having a lot of hyena activity on camera lately. It's nice to have this one. And the marula tree where the keel was, just up ahead. Now I'm still with the hyena in the sense. What I'm going to do is I want to go and see if indeed have a look, I'm going to turn in and have a look to see if there is still out. There's still something in that marula tree. Fly, I'll get you soon. Lost the hyena in the long grass, but I wanted to preempt this, or rather jump the gun a bit. Let's have a look if there's anything in this tree where the Djuma was. I'm not expecting a cat to be here. But it'll be interesting if this is what this hyena's been scenting, picking up a scent of. Nothing, not that scrap. There might be something on the ground there. And I doubt it. Kill was up here a couple of days ago. Have a look on the ground. You can see claw marks. You can actually see the claw marks of the leopard when he went up the tree. There's a lot of hair on the ground over there and a couple of little pieces of skin. It would be quite remarkable if that's what the hyena is scenting. It would be quite remarkable. Pretty, it'd be nice to have followed it. Although it was looking like a male. It's very hard to tell the sexes between hyena, but he was looking a bit of a scrawny character and appeared to have fairly large testicles, which isn't really saying much in terms of sexual dimorphism, because the female has genitalia that resemble that of a male. Evidently it's got a lot to do with high testosterone levels in the female, being somewhat of a matriarchal society as they are. So moving on. Interesting. Baker. Baker. I wonder, what should we do? Gary Dam? Other side of the dam? I'm going to go and see what Scott's up to, and I'm going to find you something else for the morning. So see you later, see you in a little while. Enjoy the view from the other side of Djuma.
Standing by. Welcome back, folks, and perfect timing. We've just stumbled upon this beautiful lilac-breasted roller. It did have a kill in its mouth. A small insect that looked like a flying insect of sorts. And I'm wondering if it's going to fly down and regather its kill. In the meantime, though, it is providing us with an incredibly beautiful view. Beautiful birds in this area. Thankfully for this one, it's a decent size and its colors are really superb, so you can notice it very easily driving past or even without binoculars. But there's a few of the smaller birds that do have equal beauty, but due to their small size it can be difficult to appreciate their beauty without getting binoculars onto them. This one really is looking quite restless, so I'm sure it won't be much longer until it decides to fly off. I'm going to get my camera ready in anticipation. My lens isn't quite big enough for where we are here, although let's see how this works out. What I may even do is put my big flash on, because it is in the shadows there, so the flash will help, but that's only if I can get it on in time. And for any of you who are interested in looking at my photographs, because you do hear the camera clicking away very often, please feel free to have a look on my Facebook page, Scott Dyson Safaris, and that way you will get an idea of the photographs I'm capturing whilst on safari with you guys. Okay. Sorry, Vim, if you could just go with that question again. I only caught the second half. But Dave in Toronto, your question is about to be answered. Okay, so David, morning David, and welcome on board. David is a novice wildlife photographer, he says, and is wondering if I have any potential tips or clues to help him in finding more animals when out exploring and looking for photographic opportunities. And it's a good question, David. A lot depends on the area that you're in, and I sadly don't know that area, but what I do know is that wildlife photography does require patience, so potentially you may need to buy yourself a small hide. You get very little tents that operate well as portable hides or enclosures that you can position next to a pond or an area where you think animals may move past. So that might be a cheap, fun and easy option or tool to add to your box of tricks. A small hide or tent that allows you to position it wherever you think best, and then hide in there and wait for animals to come past, because you know, here for example we're very privileged in that we can get exceptionally close to the animals, but in certain wilderness areas you may not be so privileged, so a hide may be something that's useful for you. And then to speak to any of the local people. Local knowledge is always the best, so any of the local wardens or game guards in the parks or areas you may be moving through may be able to provide you with that useful information that only a local will know. And something that I believe firmly in is, you know, to take your time to photograph the smaller things, the animals you usually wouldn't think would be the top stars of the show. And when stopping and giving those animals time, you often get spoiled with other incredible sightings. So make the most of all the little opportunities, and even in your garden you can take photographs of your dog or your cat. It's all practicing photographing an animal. So my final and last tip to your question, and it's the most important of all with photography, and that is that the best camera is a camera that is on you. Because how many times have you been in a situation where you've thought, oh, if only I had my camera? So that's another little trick or word of advice, is always carry your camera with you, even if you don't think you'll be getting photographic opportunities. Take it along, and you never know what will surprise you out there. And David, I hope all of your photography goes well. It's such an awesome hobby, and it's just never ending how much you can learn and explore. And I do hope you continue to explore the woods around you. Now, I thought it was going to fly. Brian, do you think it's going to fly anytime soon?
Can't be sure.
Nobody knows. Well, we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes. This is just so beautiful, with that little bit of sunlight poking through onto its face. Oh, it's looking alert. That call it just made is also a sign that it may take off soon. They can work themselves up with a little bit of calling before they take off. I have noticed that with the rollers. Oh, here we go. So I'm glad you're seeing this, because it is not the prettiest call. Go ahead, Bill. Okay, so we've just got a question come through from Chris in Adelaide. Morning, Chris. Welcome on board. Chris has brought up a good point, and he's asking if I know how many woodlands kingfishers migrate down from the north of Africa or Central Africa to the southern parts, to where we are now for the summer. And I don't actually have a clue how many do migrate, but they certainly do fill up the low veldt. They don't make it as far south as my hometown Durban on the east coast, or as far as the Cape, but yeah, it's a very good question. I'd love to know how many actually do travel down, but sadly I'm not sure. And they move all the way up to Central Africa, Chris, for our winter. But where exactly, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't spent too much time there or looked up there for them, so I also have only seen them here in the low veldt. Oh, it's definitely going to take off soon. Surely it has to. It's getting ready. Come on. Oh wow, it flew right towards us. That is incredible. Wow. The photograph I was hoping on getting did not come out, so don't hold your breath for that one on Facebook.
I was hoping it would go back into that branch that it's killed.
Ah, that was incredible. Well, it was good, and like I say, Brian and I had been driving around with not too much, but thought we should get you back on board with us, and as we decided to do that, that lilac-breasted roller popped up, so thankful for that. Now, myself and Brian have decided to try and explore some areas that we haven't been to for a long time. It's a riverbed that we drove down probably a month ago last. So we're going to make our way there and see what happens along the way. Shadow and a cub, they lost visual of her in a very thick riverbed. So sadly we're not going to be able to have a look at them, but great to know that they are both healthy. And also good to know where they are roughly, because now that we know the general area that they're in, we can go and snoop around there this afternoon and maybe they pop out of the thick riverbed that they were lost in. This is an incredible show of power that an elephant has performed on this bush willow tree. I mean, for any of you out there who are gardeners, you'll understand how difficult it can be to pull out even a small little sapling with little roots embedded into the ground. So the power required to be able to do that really is phenomenal. I mean, this isn't even a big tree, but in terms of manpower, how many humans you'd need to be pushing on that tree to even budge it, it'd be very interesting to know. But also something that's necessary to know is that it is, and may seem wasteful and destructive, and it is destructive, but it's a necessary destruction caused by the elephants, and that's all part of the plan, otherwise there wouldn't be elephants on this continent. So that's what they're here to do, a bit of tree felling. amongst other things. Now, again, my trusty tablet is going to aid in me getting around here. Okay, so it's so nice to drive through an area that we haven't been in for a long time, just to mix things up a bit. So I'm soaking in all the scenery that I'm not used to. You become very used to some of the roads that we drive a lot, and you get to know each tree individually, and you start remembering certain areas from sightings that you've had there. But to come into an area where you haven't spent much time is, like I say, very refreshing. So I'm literally waiting for any kind of excitement to come from any corner. I'm on edge as we explore further. So the plan is now to head into the Marakeni Donga and follow it. It's not a very big riverbed, but it's a beautiful riverbed, and I love them, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to take you on a beautiful scenic road with the potential of bumping into any animals along the way. Now, another African hoopoo's just taken off and flown ahead here. It is a bird that I tried to show you briefly this morning, but it did take off again, hopefully though. Come on. No, can't even see where it landed. Oh, we both saw it at the same time, and it flew off. Oh well. Well done, Brian. There's already some clouds building up. Now at this time of the year anything can happen with the weather, so I wonder what will be going on by this afternoon. I never look at the weather report personally, so I'm not sure what the professionals have predicted. But what I can tell you is that the clouds are building slowly, and there's a chance of having a different weather pattern this afternoon. Okay. How much time do we have left? Half an hour. Carol in Santa Monica, good morning, and how are you? Carol is asking why I wear a leather hat because it's hot, and it's a good question, Carol. I got given this hat from a friend of mine and I really like it. It's durable, it's not easy to break, and it's very flexible. You can squish it up into a ball and then it pops back out into place. So there's a few reasons, but it is hot. Yes, you're right. And I could potentially look at a cooler summer hat, but it does me good for now. It's for lack of better options really at this stage. Now we have an African Harrier hawk circling, and it seems like it might be quite a nice angle for Brian to try and capture and show you, and maybe a little bit far away, but always I find really peaceful to watch these birds of prey soaring effortlessly through the skies. I'm just going to get my binoculars and double check that it is an African Harrier hawk. They do have a distinctive... Oh no, I was very wrong. It's a lesser spotted eagle. Forgive me. And you will notice a very distinctive spots on the upper side of its wings and the base of its tail. But that is not evidence on the underside, only when it tilts at the right angle, when we can see its back. Anyway, that is a lesser spotted eagle, and they come from a very, very long way away. I know Chris from Adelaide was interested in the woodlands kingfisher and its migratory pattern. And what I'm going to do here is see if I can find out what this lesser spotted eagle, I think it does come from Asia, I'm fairly sure. As far as is it gone? Yep. Okay, good. So, lesser spotted eagle. Palearctic migrants, so it does also come from the steppe mountains, I'm guessing, with steppe eagles in Russia. So that's where they come from, a long, long way away, the lesser spotted eagle. And this is a chair in the book. Sorry, as Brian was panning around there. Here's the one on the bottom left. It is very difficult to tell simply from these images, but the bird on the bottom left is indeed the individual that we were looking at. And call, it says silent in Africa, so they obviously leave their instruments at home when they come down on holiday. Now we are about to descend into the dark and dangerous Marakeni Donga. So brace yourselves. If you're drinking anything hot, maybe put it away in case you get a fright and spill it. Oh, you wouldn't believe it though. Well, think it's worth one last shot? The lesser spotted eagle has reappeared and now disappeared, but hopefully it'll continue circling a few more rotations before it disappears. But no, that one looks like it was battling to get onto a thermal, and that's why you saw that it was flapping so much, whereas the other bird we saw initially, because it was onto a thermal, it was riding effortlessly. Okay, so this is the small little riverbed we're going to follow. It is a little bit bumpy, so I apologize for that, but the person who's going to bear the brunt of that more than any of us is my friend Brian on the back. So thank you, Brian. Oh. And the tablets. Tablets also just got a bit of the punishment from the bumpy roads. Oh. Okay. So this road continues to crisscross through the riverbed, and at some points, if I remember correctly, we actually drive in the riverbed once the riverbed widens enough, so that's something to look forward to, if my memory does not elude me. Ooh. And the one thing that I love about following riverbeds like this is the beautiful trees you get along the way, and in these beautiful trees they find beautiful birds, snakes, and if you're very lucky, a leopard. Copy that, VM. Copy that, thanks, VM. Give me maybe another minute or two through here, and then we'll cut across to Mark. So folks, we will cut across to Mark to get an update on what he's up to, but I would just like to take you a little bit further down this riverbed. I'm feeling lucky, and it's beautiful big trees like this that make me feel lucky, or that excite me. Wouldn't it just be absolutely wonderful to know how old it is and what it's seen over the years passing through this riverbed below it. And this is a jackalberry tree. It's a common, very large tree that we get in this area, and it is one of the most beautiful trees of the area, so we do see a lot of them and do appreciate them. Go ahead, VM. Okay, copy, VM, thank you. Okay. I thought I'd seen a tiny owl in a little cavity within the tree there, but it was my mind playing tricks on me. Myself and Brian were chatting on the way into work this morning, discussing how interesting it is that we're noticing already a massive change in how early the sun is coming up, or late it's coming up, how much later it's coming up than it was around Christmas and just before that. So the sun is rising later in the mornings, which suits us, and going down earlier in the evenings, which also suits us. For various reasons we broadcast at set times, but like I say, I think our broadcast times relative to what the sun and the weather's, or the season is doing, is now going to become more in our favor than it has been. And what this means is we'll be driving around with a spotlight more into the evening, and that way we'll hopefully be able to show you some owls, because we sadly just aren't mobile long enough into the evening to show you owls unless we're lucky enough to find one during the day. Anyway, from myself and Brian in the beautiful Marikeni drainage line, or riverbed, a big thank you for following us this morning, and great prospects for this afternoon. We didn't make it to them, but the Birmingham boys were around also on Arathusa, so we might potentially see this afternoon, or the two lioness that we've seen. So, and the probability of Mvula and shadow popping up are also there. So good options for this afternoon. Anyway, until then, from myself and Brian, have a wonderful day, and back to Mark.
Welcome to Buffelshoek Dam. I'm glad we popped in here because there's this little alien having a lot of fun on his own. Fortunately, lighting isn't really great. I'm going to just turn around. No, before I do, she's going to go under, sitting down. He's looking for some deeper water, but earlier on he was playing hippo. He was completely submerged. He's having a ball. The fun side of elephant. Everybody likes to do handstands when they're in the pool. He's a teenager, so he's probably broke off from a bachelor group, or he's just wandering around today for this moment in time on his own. Probably in touch with other bulls. They do have very strong bonds, the bulls, especially those that are related and have grown up together, likely to form bonds for the rest of their lives and move around as a group of bulls, but often not necessarily in each other's company, but still moving around together, still in contact with each other. I would love to try and get a different angle. We're looking almost into this morning sun, but it is giving a beautiful light. sitting down now. It's all over. With a perfect circle, the waves, perfect concentric rings emanating from him. Quite hard for an elephant to completely submerge themselves because they do have such positive buoyancy. One of the striking differences between how elephant move in water and how hippo move in water is that elephant have a positive buoyancy and they swim on the surface if it gets too deep. Hippo on the other hand have somewhat of a negative buoyancy, so they can't swim really. They have to run along the bottom when the water gets deep. But as positive buoyant as he is, he's trying his hardest to get every inch of him underwater every now and then. And he probably thinks he is, except for that little butt of his sticking up when he does a handstand. Hello, little boy. I barked the roots off and let the roots drop. That is a very clean elephant. Probably going to throw sand on his body now. See if we can keep up with him a little bit. Nice way to end the morning. Behind the trees. Come this side. Quite a youngster actually, he's probably early teens. Could be the family he's with, or his family is somewhere nearby. Learning a little independence in his teenage years, and of course eventually becoming a part of elephant bull society and following the bulls in their seasonal movement. very interesting to see how they do move around Kruger and the vast distances that they cover different times of the year. Let's try and get around this tree a little bit, just so we can say goodbye to him and see him a little better. Probably going to have fun here at the dam for the rest of the day. I'm not going to see him. Put his head in the bushes. See him? Sort of. I say, he's the cleanest elephant we're going to see in a while before he starts putting mud and sand and dressing himself up. There's something biting him in the stomach. Something itching. There's a white-breasted cormorant coming into Arathusa Dam, just flew overhead. That was about the best we're going to get of this little form. I suppose the best was having him in the water, but he's got a lot to eat in there. Morning, Colleen, in Winnipeg. Colleen wants to know if elephants breathe through their trunk like we breathe through our nose. Yes, indeed, Colleen, they do. I don't know if you noticed, but he was using his trunk as a snorkel when he was in the water. The trunk is essentially an extension of the nose and the upper lip. It's sort of a combination of both upper lip and nose, and very much used for breathing, smelling, but it's also, of course, used as a tool. The two fingers on the tips, the two little prehensile fingertips that the African elephant has, using that to pick things up off the ground or pick leaves off of trees. But we can't really get to see him feeding with it, but we will in time when we do see other ellies. But at the moment, he's back to the dam and his head in the bush. There's not much we can do about getting to see him feed. Unless we park on that side of the tree from him, but then it's pretty obscured. Might get a glimpse of the trunk through the branches. Little bird, you see that little plover there on the sand? A little three-banded plover.
Where is it?
Well,
Okay.
hard to really, it's probably a bit far, being a small plover. I think it's three-banded, triple-banded. Yeah, it is, three-banded. And plover. Mr. Ellie, yo. Antisocial elephant. You can't really get to see him feeding too well from this angle. Maybe. A little bit better from here. Not quite, but a little bit. At least you can see him a little bit. But with a bit of luck we might come back later and find him, or maybe more, having a bath and a swim. The cormorant that was flying over did a few circles and then flew off. I guess she wasn't too keen on coming to the Buffalo Dam at the moment. Nice to have that kind of bird here. I think there was a reed cormorant here the other day, and there has been a darter here too. Oh, let's see, let's start making our way back and then get back onto the Buffalo cut line. It's getting hot and getting late. Bye bye, Ellie. Hopefully see you later, little boy. Quite a diverse morning actually. One thing I haven't done though is at least get one flower, so there's an hibiscus. I'm not pointing in the right direction. The wild hibiscus family. Malvaceae, the Mulva family. I'm going to find one more flower before I say goodbye. A lovely morning nonetheless, and I want to thank you all for being a part of it. What is that on the bonnet? For what? I need a stick. It's going to get burnt. It actually looks like a bee pirate type of wasp. I think it's the heat of the bonnet that's oh. Yeah. Okay, got a few seconds left. It's a type of wasp that is known as far as I know, it's called a bee wolf, not a bee pirate. It could be a bee pirate. Type of wasp that preys on bees. Sadly, it came tumbling over the hood and it landed on the bonnet, and I think that the heat of the bonnet might have killed it. Anyways, so goodbye everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks so much, here's the flower, for joining us this morning and for being part of our drive and for all the input that you gave, all the questions, and from myself and all of us here at Wild Earth and at Djuma Game Reserve. So long, bye bye. See you at 4 Central African time, and that's Trichoceros longipedunculata.